Hi, Steve Gale here. In this video, what we're going to do is we're going to set up a virtual networking environment for Palo Alto Firewall Labs. And we're going to install the Windows Server, which is going to be used as a client in the Palo Alto lab. So we might as well get started. The first thing we're going to do is we've installed and running up VMware Workstation, Workstation 16 Pro. And what we're going to do is we're going to first of all use the virtual network editor to set up a couple of virtual networks. There's a number of virtual networks we need for this lab environment, but first of all, I'll just need VMnet 8. So I'm going to go to VMnet 8 and I'm going to go to change settings, and I need to be logged in as an administrator to be able to change the settings. So we can bring this dialog box back. Go to VMnet 8. And I'm just going to make sure that this is NATed, and we want to connect a host adapter to this network because this NATed network is going to give us internet access, and we also want to be able to allocate IP addresses through DHCP on VMnet 8 as well. But I'm going to change the subnet IP to 192.168.30.0. And the subnet mask can stay at 255.255.255.0. But when I do that, I just need to confirm that the DHCP settings have likewise changed. So I'll go in here and I'll make this 30.0 and 30.254. So what this is saying is that we're going to run a DHCP server on this network, on this NAT network, and it'll allocate IP addresses from the starting address range of 30.128 up to an ending IP address range of 30.254, which means that below 128 we can use static addresses, and that's fine, and the default release time will be fine. So I'll just make those changes, and I'll just hit apply. And typically we need to create a number of other virtual networks. I might just, because I've got VMnet 1 here, I'll just modify VMnet 1 appropriately. And we'll just have a look and see what we need to do. We need to make this a VMnet 1 a host-only network. So let's have a look and see what we need to do. So if I go to VMnet 1 and I look here, and here we've got host only, which is fine. But what I want to do is I want to make this an internal network. So I don't want to have a host adapter connected to this one, and I don't want to use a DHCP server. So I'll just disable that, and I'm just going to make the subnet IP 192.168.1.0 with a subnet mask of 255.255.255.255. So this will be an internal network that we'll use. Notice that it's changed now to custom, and I'll hit apply, and I'll hit, oops, I'll wait for it to finish doing what it's doing, and I'll hit OK on that. So what we're going to do next is we're going to do a Windows Server 16 install, which we're going to use as our client, even though we're going to set it up as a domain controller. But initially, we're going to set it on the NAT network, and ultimately we'll put it on the it'll be on VMnet 1 when it's connected to which is our internal network connected to our Palo Alto firewall. So we'll just hit OK on that, and we'll look at setting up our Windows Server. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to set up my Windows Server VM. So I'll just go to File, New Virtual Machine, and I get to the wizard, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use custom, and so I can have more tight control over how it's configured. So we'll just go and yeah, we'll look at this. We like this so far. That's okay. So I'm going to use an image file, but what I'll do is I'll just say I'll install the operating system later. And let's just go and set up the configuration. So I want Microsoft Windows, and I want Windows Server 16. Where do we find Windows Server 16? Here we go, Windows Server 16. And I'm going to call this Windows Server 16 S2. And for my location, I'm going to put it on a portable disk. So I'll just browse to a suitable place. I'm going to put it on external storage E, put in 2021, technical, and I'll put it in here. So that's going to be my virtual machine location. And then I'll go next. And I'm happy with UEFI, that's fine. And 2 processors, yep, that looks good. And for the memory, interestingly, I'm going to make this 2024. So I'm going to make that 2024 gig, which doesn't seem like a lot, but it seems to be sufficient for this particular application. So bearing in mind that we're running a number of VMs in this environment, we've got Palo Alto Firewall, which is 5 gig. We've got virtual router. We've got the DMZ, and we're also running a Ubuntu Linux, which is 4 gig as well. So it all adds up. So if we can try and minimize the amount of memory, then we can run this in a hopefully in a 16 gig environment, 16 gig RAM environment. So let's hit next. So I'm going to use NAT. Eventually it'll be host only, but initially we'll start off with NAT. So I'm happy with this. Yep. And I'll just use defaults for that. And I'll create a new virtual disk. So I'm not using an existing one. And 60 gig. Yep, I think 60 gig will be fine. And I'm going to use a single file for this. Actually, no, I'll let it split. That'll be fine. I'll let it split into multiple files because it says it makes it easy to move to another computer. So that's probably what I'll like to do with this one. So let's go next on that. And I'm happy with the file name. And next, and just check the settings and finish. Okay, so what this has done is this has created my my virtual disk, but obviously there's no Windows there at the moment. So what I need to do is I need to now associate my DVD or my ISO image. And once I've associated my ISO image, then I can do a boot. So let's go and find the ISO image. So I'm going to use an ISO image. I'll browse. I'm going to use the Eval software. So I think that might be in 2021 downloads. And I'm going to use this one here, this 16 data center Eval image. That's my ISO image. It's 6 gig. This is loading from a portable drive, so it might be a fairly slow install, but that's okay. I'll just pause the bits that you don't want to wait for. And let's hit OK on that. And I think everything else looks okay. Let's just have a look at the network adapter. So we've got, we're using NAT. We could use our VMnet 8. Actually, we probably should use our VMnet 8. So let's go custom and let's go to VMnet 8, which is the NAT that we set up just before. So we'll use that particular one and we'll hit OK. And we're ready to go. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to power on the machine, but it's going to ask me to boot from DVD. So that's what I want to do. So I'll power on the machine. Now what I'll do is I'll click in here so that it'll receive my mouse keys. And when it says boot from DVD, press any key. We want to press a key. And we get to the loading files, which is a good sign. So it'll load the files and then we'll start the install. Okay, so what language to install? US English, time and currency format. Well, let's make that English Australian if we can find. Let's find English Australian. English Australia, keyboard US, that'll be fine. Let's hit next. And let's go install now. And we'll start the setup process. So I'm going to use Windows 16 standard, but I want the desktop version. So I'm going to click the desktop version. I don't want use PowerShell for everything. So we're going to use the desktop experience and hit next. And I'll accept Microsoft's terms and conditions without reading it. And so let's take the advanced option. And 60 gig, this is 60 gig that we've allocated into our VM, so that's fine. Let's hit next. And looks like it's going to start copying the files. So now we've all the files have been installed. It's gone through installing features and it's just finished installing updates. So next we'll just wait for the finishing process and then we'll finalise the install. It looks like we're doing a restart now. And the restart is commencing. So it looks now we're starting on the reboot's starting to gather all device information. And we're doing another restart. Restarting now. So we're being prompted for an administrator password and we're going to make that Palo Alto. So it's capital PAL0, capital ALT. Say it again. PAL0, capital ALT0. I'll re-enter that. Capital PAL0, capital ALT0. And we'll go to finish. And it'll finalise our settings. And then we should be able to insert a Control-Alt-Delete and sign in with those credentials, PAL0, ALT0. And we'll sign into our machine. So the first thing we need to do is we need to rename the server. And we're going to rename it to Client 2016. So once Server Manager comes up, then what we'll do is we'll use Server Manager to rename the screen. At some point, we'll also install VMware Tools so that we can get a full screen. So discovered the network. PC to be discoverable. Recommend this. We'll say yes to that. And so we've got the evaluation version, which is licensed for 180 days. And it's Windows Server 16 standard. So here comes Server Manager. And when Server Manager fires up, we'll rename the PC to Client 2016. So we'll go to local server. Wait for Server Manager to get going. It's only got 2 gig of RAM this, so it's going to be a little bit slow. So local server, and we've got computer name here. So we can click on the computer name, and this is just a randomly generated name. Here we go. And what we want to do is we want to change the computer name. And we want to change it to client 2016, which starts with a C. Need that VMware tools installed. And we'll leave it in workgroup for the time being because we're going to promote this server to a domain controller. So it's not going to be a member of domain, it's actually going to be a DC. So it wants us to do a restart. So, yep. So we'll close that and we'll do a restart now and we'll do a restart. Okay, so we'll insert a Control-Alt-Delete again and log in with AL0, capital ALT0. And we're going to use Server Manager again when Server Manager fires up. And this time what we're going to do is we're going to turn off Windows Firewall. Now, ordinarily you would use Windows, you would leave Windows Firewall on a server because it provides that extra layer of protection in a defense in depth environment. But in this situation, because we're using it in the way that we're using it with Palo Alto Firewall, we want the Palo Alto labs, we want the Windows Firewall turned off. So I'm going to go to local server and you can see here that it's got Windows Firewall here. And so what we're going to do, it's private on. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on this and we're going to go to turn Windows Firewall on or off. And what we're going to do is we're going to turn off Windows Firewall for private networks and also in the public network. So we're going to turn Windows Firewall off for both private and public and hit OK. And you can see here it goes red, telling us that we've got no Windows Firewall. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to promote this server to a domain controller. So what we want to do is close the Windows Firewall dialog, and we want to go to manage and add roles and features. And we're going to use the roles and features wizard to do this. So then we're going to go next to proceed. And we're going to use role-based feature installation. So we'll go next. And we're going to use this server. So this is our only server. So you can see here it's 192.168.30.128, which is what we'd expect because that's the that was an IP address which was in the range of VMnet 8 DHCP allocated IP addresses, the first one in the range. So we're going to go to next, and we're going to go and click Active Directory Domain Services. And then we'll go to Add Features. And then, so we're happy with that. And then we're going to go to next. And don't know if there's any other features we want to add at this particular point in time. I don't think so. So then we'll go to next, to Active Directory Domain Services. And then next again to proceed. And then we'll go to install. And this will start the installation. So you can see it's about half the way progressed. So we'll just let it complete and then we can do the configuration for the domain. So you can see here that it's completed and it's got configuration required installation. So it's basically it's installed all of the everything that it needs to be domain control, but we still need to configure it. So let's close the window. And notice that we've got this notification here. So what we can do is we can see here that we've got post-deployment configuration required. Promote this server to a domain controller. So let's click on promote this server to a domain controller. And what we'll do is we'll go through the configuration of the DC. So our domain is going to be called lab.local. Oops, sorry. No, we're going to add a new domain to an existing forest. No, we add a new forest. Here's what we want to do. Yeah. So our root domain is going to be lab.local. So we're not adding a domain controller to an existing domain. We're not adding a new domain to an existing forest. We're actually creating a new forest. Now our forest name or our domain name, our root domain name is going to be called lab.local. So we can go to next. And we need to provide a directory services restore mode. We want to set up a DNS. It's going to be a server 16 functional group. We'll also include the global catalog. It's not going to be a read-only domain controller and RODC. You'd only use a read-only domain controller if you, say, had a remote site and you wanted just a domain controller which would just synchronize off a root domain. But in this case, this is our root domain controller. For our DRSM password, we use the same password as before, as capital PAL0, capital ALT0, Palo Alto, capital PAL0, capital ALT0, and then we'll hit next. And we get to a DNS delegation. So because this is the root domain controller, we don't need to do any of this. So we'll just hit next here. And our net bias name, we'll just wait for it to find that. It's still looking. It's a little bit slow. It should come up with it automatically. Here we go. Here's lab. And we'll go next. And we'll just leave those at defaults. So this is the location of our database folder, which is our Active Directory database folder, where it's going to put the log files and where the sysfile folder is. We'll leave it as defaults. So we'll hit next. And then these are all of the configuration stuff. If we wanted to have a look at the PowerShell script, which would automate all of this, we could view the script. But let's just go next. And it's just going to confirm that it can do the promotion. Let it do its prereqs check. Where a PowerShell script could be useful is if you wanted to automate the process, you could create a PowerShell script and just execute that PowerShell script to automatically have all of those configurations and just do it in one hit, which could be a useful thing to do for a lab. Okay, so we've got a few warnings here, but it's basically passed all the prerequisite checks, so we can do the install. So we'll just let it do its install, and this will take a little time. So it's still progressing. It's just going through the progress of doing the installation. After this installation is complete, then it'll do a reboot, and when we reboot, we'll have a domain controller. So you can see the reboot's just about to happen. So let's close this dialog and let's let it do the reboot. And here goes the restart. Okay, so we'll log in. So I'll insert a Control-Alt-Delete and log in as lab administrator. So what we want to do now is we just want to check the IP address settings. So what we're going to do is just right-click on here and open Network and Sharing Center and change adapter settings and just go to this Ethernet adapter, right-click this and go to Properties and then go to IPv4 and Properties. And what we want to do is want to just look at the preferred DNS and make sure that it's 127.0.0.1. But for an alternate DNS, we've got two choices. We can either use 1.1.1 or we can use the IP address of our virtual router, which is our NAT router. So probably at this point in time, it's probably eventually we'll put 1.1.1.1 in here. But at this stage, it's probably not a bad idea to go to edit virtual network editor. And if we run up the virtual network editor, you'll see that on our NAT, if we look at our DHCP settings here, you can see here that I'm just looking for the network address. It'll be 192.168.30.2, but I can't seem to find it anywhere. No, it's not specified. That's okay. I know it's 130.2, but look, what I might do is just put 1.1.1 in there for the time being, and let's hit OK and close that. And with a bit of luck, we might have internet access. So I'm going to run let's run command prompt, and I'll just do a ping 8.8.8.8, and that looks all good. Okay, so we've got internet connectivity on our server, which is a good thing. So what do we want to do next? I think next what we need to do is we need to create some Active Directory users. So let's close this down. And what we'll need to do then is we'll need to go to Tools. And you can see here we've got Active Directory users and computers. So we'll fire up Active Directory users and computers. And this is our domain lab.local. So into users, and these are the default users that you've got with our Active Directory. So what we want to do is we want to go to create a new user, which so let's right click that and go to new and user, and the first name is going to be lab. The last name is user, and the logon name is lab-user, and next, and the password is going to be capital PAL0, capital ALT0, Palo Alto, capital PAL0, capital ALT0, and we don't want the user to change the password, so we'll just say password never expires. And next, and finish. So now we've created our lab user, but what we need to do is we need to give that lab user some permissions to do stuff. So the way we can do that is to add them to groups. So if we right-click lab user and we go to properties and we go to member of, so you can see that by default lab user is a member of domain users. But what we want to do is we want to add extra members. So what we want to do is we want to make lab user a member of. So we go into add here, and first of all, click add, and we want to type administrators. And leave an M in there. Administrators and check names. No, hasn't found it. It's because I didn't spell it right. So we add to administrators group. So let's hit OK there. And we also want to add to, we've got domain users, administrators. We want to create a group lab users, but let's put remote desktop. And we'll just do check names. And we want to remote desktop users. And we also, so OK. And we also want server operators. So we'll add, and we'll type server and check names and server operators and hit OK. So we need to create one more group. So if we hit the add, we don't have the ability to create a new group. So let's just cancel out of that. Let's hit apply there and OK. But what we need to do is we need to create a new group. So we'll right click here and we need to create a new global security group named lab users. So let's go new group, and it's going to be global security group, and it's going to be called lab space users, and we'll hit OK. And what we're going to do is we're going to go into lab users. We'll right click lab users and we'll go to properties, and then we'll go members and we'll go add. And what we'll do is we'll add our the user that we just created, which was lab user. So we'll go lab and check names, and we've got lab user. So that's the lab user that we created. So this is the user, and this is the group that the user belongs to. So we're going to add lab user. So we're adding lab user at lab.local. So adding the lab user to the lab users group. So you can see here, lab user is a member of the lab users group. So we'll hit apply and we'll hit OK. All right, so we've created the user, we've created the group, and let's just check the lab user membership properties again. Let's go to properties and member of, and we've got administrators, we've got server operators, we've got remote desktop, and we've got lab users, and of course we've got domain users as well. So that looks like we've pretty much done with that. Looks like we have to add another user. So let's hit OK. So let's add another one. Let's right click and say new and user. And the first name is lab-user-ID. And the user logon name is the same, lab-user-ID. And next, and then the password is the same, PAL0, ALT0. And Password never expires. And next, and finish. Now let's right click this user and go to properties and make this user a member of, it's a member of domain users, but it needs to be DCOM users. So we'll put distributed. So we'll hit check names and DCOM users and add also event log readers. We'll hit check names and event log readers and OK. And apply that. And OK. So I think that's pretty much all we need to do for the moment in Active Directory users and computers. So we'll just minimize that. Now we need to go back to Server Manager, and in Server Manager, go back to the local server. And in the properties thing here, what we need to do is we need to enable remote desktop. So you can see here, remote desktop is disabled. So we'll click on remote desktop is disabled. And then we'll go to allow remote connections to the computer. And yep, and we'll select users, and we've got lab user in there, and we want to add the administrator as well. It says here lab administrator already has access. So lab administrator and lab users both have access, so that's okay. So then we'll hit OK on that, and we'll hit apply on that. So let's hit OK there. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to configure a default domain policy. So we want to go in here to run and type MMC. Type in MMC, and we want to run the MMC snap-in. And once we've got the MMC snap-in running, or the MMC manager running, we want to add and remove snap-ins. So we want to go to action, file, add and remove snap-ins. And the snap-ins we're looking for is group policy management. So we'll just go to group policy management editor, which is this one. And we want to add group policy management editor. And so the group policy object that we want is the default domain policy. So we'll add the default domain policy and then click OK on that and then finish on there. And you can see here we've got our default domain policy in our as one of our snap-ins. So we can hit OK to exit out of that. So what we want to now do is browse to the default domain policy. And the first one we're going to look at is the computer configuration security settings. I'll just make this full screen. Drag this out a bit. So what we're after is the password policy. So where we'll find this is in policies, Windows settings, security settings, and then account policies, password policy. So this is what we're looking for. And what we want to do is we want to go to the enforce password policy history box. And you see here it's got 24 passwords remembered. So we want to change that. So I want to click on that. And it's got policy setting. We want to select 0 passwords remembered and click OK on that. Then we want to double click the maximum password age. And we want to change this to uncheck define this policy setting. So we're not allowing our passwords to age. So this is so we can continue to use the same password Palo Alto, but obviously in an environment where you're looking for security, these are things that you would want to probably make them tighter rather than looser. So we'll hit OK on that. And yeah, and then we look at minimum password age. Which is not defined. And then double click the password must meet complexity requirements. And we'll disable that. Okay. So basically what we've done is we've really loosened up the password policy on the domain so that we can maintain the same password, which is Palo Alto. So what we want to do now is we want to go to local policies. And in here, we want to go to the audit policy. And what we want to do with our audit policies is, first of all, audit account logon events. So we go into this one and just say define these policy settings and have success. So we want to audit on success and click OK. And then we're going to go to audit logon events. And we want to select define these policy settings and with success also. And hit OK as well. So what we've done is we're auditing on account logon and we're auditing logon events. So what that means is that the audit policy is that these events will actually be audited. Okay, so what we can do is we can quit out of our MMC console. So let's close that up. Save the settings to console 1. I'll say yes, and I'll just put this in on the desktop, and I'll call it domain policies. Oh, we want to go back there with an O. Save it, then that'll automatically go back there. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to install Active Directory certificate services. So we're going to turn this domain controller also into a certificate server. So the way we do that is we go back to manage and add roles and features. And we go next. And we're going to use role-based feature installation. And we're going to use this server again, our same server. And next. And we're going to click on Active Directory Certificate Services. and add those features. So now we'll click next. And then we'll go to next. And in the role services, what we want to do is we want to select the role services, and we want to select certification authority, and we want to add certification authority web enrollment. So we'll add the IIS feature for that. And we also want online responder, and we'll add the features for that. So we've got certification authority, so it'll be a certificate server. We want to allow for web enrollment. So to do web enrollment, we need to install IIS or Internet Information Server, and that'll be installed as well. And also the online responder. And then we'll click next. And we're happy with that, so we'll hit next. And we'll just have a look and see what options we've got here. We don't need web dev. We don't need custom logging. We don't need ODBC logging. Static content. Security. So we're happy with all of that. So let's just hit next. And that's what we're doing. So all that stuff's going to be installed. So we'll just click, we'll just select restart. So it'll automatically restart if it needs to, and just hit install. And we'll start the installation process. So it probably needs to do a reboot. And after the reboot, it'll have its certificate services also installed. So I might just close the wizard, and it will just let it sit there and run in the background, do its reboot, and then we'll be good. So I'm going to just have a look at the notifications, and you can see here that installation succeeded. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to go to add roles and features, and have a look and see where things are at. And it's got configuration required, installation succeeded. So let's hit close, and you can see here that notifications come up. So what I'll do is I'll click on the notification, and it's got here configure Active Directory certificate services. So what I want to do is I want to select configure Active Directory certificate services, and go through the process of configuring the certificate server. So credentials lab administrator, yep, happy with that. So let's go to next. So here what we want to do is we want to tick certification authority web enrollment, and online responder. So we've got those three ticked. And then we go to next. Then we want enterprise CA, which is the default. So we'll hit select, hit enter, and it's going to be the root CA because it's the only certificate authority in the hierarchy. And we'll hit next. And we need to create a new private key. So we'll need to do that. Now, we want to use RSA is okay and 248 is okay for the key length, and shaft 256. So the defaults, we're happy with the default cryptographic options for our primary key, for our private key. So let's go to next, and then we've got lab client 2016 CA. Yeah, that's fine. Lab.local is the domain, and so that's all good. So we can just go next for this. And 5 years default. Yep, that's fine. So let's accept that. And in terms of our database locations and our log location, yeah, we're happy with that. So we can just hit next. And this is basically everything that we've configured. So let's go, that's all our configuration information. So let's go to configure. And you can see here that all those configurations have succeeded. So that's good. So that's been successful. Excellent. So now we're going to go to tools, and we're going to go to certification authority. So we'll run up the certification authority, and you can see here, this is our lab client CA. So this is our CA. And what we can do is we can just look at these certificates. So if we look at certificate templates, you can see here the certificate templates that we have. And we can then right-click certificate templates and hit manage. And what that does is it brings up the MMC and gives us the ability to manage these templates. So we need to find the subordinate certificate technology, subordinate certificate authority here, and right-click that and go to properties. And go to the security tab, and then we need to select here authenticated users and allow full control. Yep, so authenticated users have full control here, and hit OK. So that's for subordinate CA. And we need to repeat the same for computer. So computer, right-click, properties, and security, authenticated users, allow full control. Yep. And OK for that. So we've done computer. Then we need to do OCSP response signing. Right-click that, properties. Properties and security and full control. OK for that. And finally, web server. Web server, right-click, properties, security, full control, and OK for that. And so we can close this. So let's go to web browser. So what we need to do is to use Internet Explorer, and we'll just say OK for that. We want to browse to localhost/certserv. And what we should be able to see is we should be able to see our certificates. So you can see here we've got certificate servers running. Okay. And we can request a certificate, yep, which is what we want to be able to do. Excellent. Okay. So what we need to do is we need to log out as administrator. So what we're going to do is we're going to sign out as administrator. And we'll log in as lab user. So we'll type in here lab/lab user, and it should be Palo Alto. And so now what we can do is we can start installing applications. But before we do that, we need to create a certificate management shortcut on the desktop. So what we'll do here is we'll just go in here and type run. And we'll run MMC. And it's not going to find MMC. Let's have a look and see how we can sort this out. Sorry, we should need to type. We want to run the MMC, so type MMC in there. And we're running our MMC console. So we want to go File, Options, Add and Remove Snap-ins. And we don't seem to be able to do that. Let's have a look and see what's going on here. I'll just close that out. We'll have another look. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go and find MMC. So let's go into File Explorer, and it'll be in Windows System 32. So let's go to System 32. System 32, and we'll just search for mmc.exe, and there it is there. So let's run this as administrator and just say yes. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to I was going to pin it to the taskbar, but it doesn't want to pin, so that's all right. So here what we're going to do is we're just going to go File, Add and Remove Snap-in. And we just need to find certificates. So we'll just add the certificate snap-in. And we want to use my user account and then finish. So certificates for current user. And hit OK. And then we'll go File and we'll go Save As. And we're going to save this as onto the desktop with the name certificates. And then save. And this is our certificates. So what we've done is we've put that on the desktop. So if we go in here, you can see here we've got, if we double click on certificates and we say yes, and then it brings up our certificates current user on the desktop. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is start installing some applications. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to start installing Google Chrome. Okay, so I think the best way to install Google Chrome is probably to install VMware Tools, and then I can copy the script that I need to do the install across into my VM. And that might be the easiest way of doing it. So I might just click this I finished installing, which has been sitting there for quite a while. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to install VMware tools. So to do that, what I need to do is I need to mount the VMware tools into the CD drive and install VMware tools to do that. So let's have a look at how we're going to do that. So I'm going to go to VM here, and I'm going to go to install VMware tools. And we logged into the operating system. So what I'll do is I'll just go to the D drive, and I want to run setup.exe. And yes, probably should have done this as an administrator, but it doesn't matter. I logged in as lab user, that should be fine. And once I've done this, then I should be able to copy files, drag and drop, and that sort of thing from the host to the guest operating system. So I'll hit next. I'll do a typical install and do install. It's going to install the drivers that it needs. And then what I'll be able to do is I'll be able to install Google Chrome from using a PowerShell script. That looks better. Now I've got full screen. Let's wait for it to finish. And finish, and we're done. So I need to do a restart. So what I'll do is I'll do the restart now. Yes. Okay, so we're doing the reboot. Just waiting for it to finish. So I'll insert a Control-Alt-Delete, and I'll log in as lab user. Enter. And what I'd like to do is I would like to be able to copy files from one system to another. So let's have a look at how we do that. So if we go into here and we go to settings, so virtual machine settings, and we go to options, and you can see here we've got shared folders are disabled. What have we got here? We've got snapshots, auto protect, PSI access control, VMware tools. It's probably going to work. Let's have a look. Let's run PowerShell. So I'll just type in and what I'll do is I'll just run this as administrator. So yes. And I'll just right click and I'll just pin this to the taskbar so that PowerShell is always there. So I've got the script here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this copy of the script. So I've got a copy of the script on my host machine. So I'll just run up Notepad, and then I'll just paste that in. And you can see here it's copied and pasted from my main machine. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to copy this and I'll put it in PowerShell, which is running as administrator, and I'll just hit enter. And with a bit of luck, it's going to go and it's going to have a look and it's going to see if it can find Chrome on the net and install Chrome for me on this machine. While we're doing that, let's have a look at the script. So what does the script do? It creates a temp directory. It's going to do Chrome installer.exe. Then it downloads the file from Google Chrome. You can see here it's doing the download from and then it does basically does a silent install and monitors the process and still prints out still running if it's still running, and then once it's done it'll clean it up. So it'll do a clean up at the end. So you can see here, and it looks like it's good. So let's go in here and see if we've got Chrome. So we'll type in Chrome. And look at that, we've got Google Chrome. Fantastic. So we don't have to survive with Internet Explorer anymore. So let's just go and see if we can www. And that all looks good. Fantastic. Okay, so we'll just close that down. And we don't need PowerShell anymore. So we've got Chrome on our desktop. So what we want to do is we want to right-click and go to Properties. And we want to find the Chrome.exe here. You see the target. And what we want to do is we want to type in there minus incognito. So we want to run Chrome in incognito mode. So let's hit apply. Oops, it doesn't like it. Incognito. After this, put that there. Get rid of what we need no on the end and apply that. Continue and OK. So if we run up Chrome, yes, by default, it goes into incognito mode, which is what we're after. Excellent. So the next thing we're going to do is we want to go to and create a desktop shortcut for Internet Explorer. So let's go to find Internet Explorer. So we'll go into C, Program Files, Internet Explorer, and we've got iExplore.exe, and we'll just do send to the desktop. Create a shortcut. So what we'll do with this shortcut now is we'll right-click this, we'll go to Properties, and after iExplore.exe, we want minus private. It's pretty much the same as incognito mode. Let's hit OK, and let's run this. And you can see we've got in private browsing, Internet Explorer. Close that, get rid of that, and that seems to be working. The next thing we need to do is to download and install WinSCP. So let's fire up Google Chrome. and we'll go to HTTPS colon sorry / winscp.net. Add the A. And we'll download WinSCP. And that's downloading. Open it up. Still for users, yes. And just use the defaults. Do the install. And so what we want to do is we want to create a pre-configured entry here. So what we want to do is file protocol needs to be SCP. Host name is 192.168.50.1, 50.10, and port number 22. Username is lab user, and password Palo Alto. And we'll save this, and the name is EDL web server. And we'll create a desktop shortcut. And we'll save the password as well. And hit OK. And then we've got our, we called it DEL web server. Oh well, we know what it is. Hopefully you won't get that wrong. And then we can close that and exit out of there. So if we run this, then this is looking for our EDL web server. Close that and exit out. Next thing we're going to do is install Wireshark. So we'll just go to http://www.wireshark.org. And download Wireshark. We'll get the 64-bit one. So yes, we'll go next. Noted. Next. Let's get a desktop icon. Next. To the install Wireshark. And once we've installed Wireshark, then what we want to do is we want to just turn off the GUI updates. Might just pause this for a minute. Yeah, so we'll install in PCAP. And I think we'll just go with the defaults. We'll just say install. Next. And we're finished with that. And Wireshark's still going. Okay, so hit next and we'll finish. So what we want to do now is we want to run up Wireshark. So we're just going to Wireshark. And we're just going to edit and then preferences. And then going to advanced. And we want to find GUI update enabled. Oops, past. GUI update enabled, and it's true. I'm going to double click it. Like to double click it. I'm going to change it. I'm going to run this as administrator. Edit, preferences, advanced. GUI update enabled. I can't make it false. Oh, well, if I can't change it, then I can't change it. Hit OK and quit out of there. So the next thing we want to do is we want to install ZenMap and Nmap. So we'll go to nmap.org. And let's go to download. I'm going to download that. We want to download Nmap. And get Nmap 791. Says it can download from the Nmap download page, but I can't see where we download ZenMap. I think it's been taken off. Anyway, let's just install Nmap. Open, yes, I agree. Next, install, and we'll install Nmap. So I've got a newer version of NPCAP, so I won't replace it. I'll say no to that. That was a more recent version that came with with Wireshark, I think. And we'll finish that. And next we want to install PuTTY. So we'll go to www.putty.org and we can download PuTTY here. And we'll get the 64-bit MSI installer. Install PuTTY. PuTTY's done. You can read the README if you like. So I want to run PuTTY. And I might just pin it to the taskbar. What I want to do is want to create 2 entries. So I want to do one for firewall management. So we'll just do 192.168.1.254. And we're going to save this one as firewall management. That's the management port on the Palo Alto firewall, and save. And then we want another one, which is traffic generator, which is 192.168.1.50, which is our DMZ server. Oh, sorry, 50.10, not 1.50, it's 50.10. Their DMZ server, and this one's going to be called traffic generator. And we'll save that one. Travig. Oh, I know what it is. And so they're the 2 that we need. Now with the traffic generator, what we can do is if we go to traffic generator, we can go to connection. So over here in connection and data, we've got auto login username. So we can put in here root. So it'll automatically log in as root. And then go back to session. And I'll change this to traffic. And I'll go save. I'll get rid of the old one, delete. So if I go into, well, now I've got the right name there. Okay, so I can get out of that. So now I want to run command prompt and right click, run as administrator. But what I want to do is I want to drag that icon to the desktop. So I'm going to try and, oops, didn't pin it. Oh, let's go and find it. So it's in Windows system. System 32. And we'll search for cmd.exe. And there it is there. So what I can do is I can create a shortcut. Put it on the desktop. Yep. And there it is. Okay, so we've got our command prompt on the desktop. And we can just right-click that and run as administrator if we need to. Next thing we need to do is go and get Notepad++. So plus.org. And we want to download it. Get the latest version. Looks like an ad. Got to be careful here. We've got a download ad here and a download ad here, and this looks like the real bit. So, I mean, if we're being really concerned, we look at the get the installer and the signature. But let's just download it. Time for that, and open it when it's done. Yes. English. I agree. Next, install. I shouldn't have installed the Olo updater. Oh well, doesn't matter. Finish that. And that's Notepad++. Just check if I've got a shortcut on the desktop. No, I haven't. That's all right. I'll pin it to the start bar. Actually, no. Don't want to do that. That's all right. We should let's run it up again. Get rid of changelog and file exit. So now what I need is I need the 210 lab files which you can get off the S drive. I have them here. So what I'll do is I'll go and get the lab files. So I've just grabbed a copy of the 210 lab files. Here, and it's a zip file. So what I'm going to do, and I'm going to unzip them. And I'll just extract all. And I'm going to put them into a file called let's just go 210 lab files, that'll do. And basically, I just need this lab folder. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy the lab folder and put it on the desktop. It's the one. Yep. So I'll just delete this, and delete this. I'm just left with the folder called lab, which has the batch files in it that I need. Fantastic. So the final step in configuring this Windows Server client for the Palo Alto lab environment is to just change now its IP address and the VMnet assignment. So what I would do is go in here, right click here, and open network and sharing properties and change adapter settings. Go to Ethernet 0 and go to the properties tab, and then go to the IP properties. And what I'm going to do is just say use the following IP address. And in here, I'll put 192.168. I'm going to put it on the .1 network, and we'll make it .1.20. Subnet mask 255.255.250. Default gateway will be 192.168.1.1. And I can leave the DNS as it is. And then what I can do is hit OK to make those changes. Now, what you'll find now is I've lost my internet access because currently I'm on the NAT network, which is a 192.168.30 network. So what I'll do is I'll close that. And you can see here that I've lost my internet, no internet access. But what I need to do is one other thing I need to do, or a couple of other things I need to do. I need to rename the network adapter. So I can rename this and I can call that internal. Yep, like so. So I rename the adapter to internal. And one more thing I need to do before I can take a snapshot is I'll just close all of this off. And I'll just go to here and right click this and go to settings. And you can see here my network adapter is VMnet 8. So what I need to do is to change that network adapter from VMnet 8 to VMnet 1. So VMnet 1 is the internal network, or the internal zone, and that's the 192.168.1 network. So what I can do is hit OK there. And so once all of this is done, what I can do is I can then go here and I can right click this and I can go snapshot and I can take a snapshot. So take a snapshot. So I'll go here, take a snapshot. I'll call this snapshot 1 and my description is fully configured. Fully configured client, and I'll put a date on there, which is 13/07/21, and take the snapshot. And I'm done. Great. It's a bit time consuming, but thanks very much for your time. And I hope you have a successful, you're successful at installing the Windows client for the Palo Alto Labs, Firewall Labs. Thanks, everyone.